Elliot's Fire Truck by Andrea Beck. Elliot-Moose jumped aboard his bright red fire truck. "Fire Chief Elliot to the rescue!" he yelled. He cranked up the siren, strapped on his helmet, and with a mighty push he rolled into the hall. Today, Elliot was a firefighter, and he felt courageous. Let's look at this picture right here. Where do you think the setting might be? Remember that the setting is where the story takes place. I think it looks like a home. Socks was digging through her costume box when Elliot rounded the corner. She tossed him an old raincoat. "Who are you going to rescue today?" she asked. "I'm saving you," replied Elliot. "No, you're not," said Socks. "I want to be a firefighter. We can rescue someone else." Elliot thought for a moment. "Let's rescue Paisley," he said. So they dragged the truck upstairs and sped off to find their friend Paisley. So far in the story, who are our characters? Right now it looks like we have Elliot and Socks. Let's see if we find any more. Elliot and Socks spotted Paisley in the library. They skidded to a stop in front of the big desk. "Look, a 4-alarm fire!" shouted Socks. "We'll save you, Paisley!" yelled Elliot. But before they could unwind the hose, Paisley peeked over the edge of the desk. "Firefighters?" he cried. "Oh boy, can I be a firefighter too?" Looks like we added Paisley to the mix of characters. Elliot pushed his helmet back. "Socks and I were going to rescue you," he said to Paisley. But Paisley was already climbing down from the desk. "There's been an explosion at Big Bed," he cried. "We need to rescue Amy." "An explosion at Big Bed?" gasped Socks. "Let's go," said Elliot. Paisley hopped onto the truck and they sped off to find their friend Amy. With 3 firefighters on board, the truck went much faster. At Big Bed, they screeched to a halt. Elliot set up the ladder. Socks unwound the hose and Paisley grabbed the first aid kit. "What a terrible explosion!" shouted Paisley. "Look at those flames!" yelled Socks. "Don't worry, Amy, we'll get you down," called Elliot. Amy peeped out from under the bed and grinned. "Are we being firefighters today?" she asked. Then she leaped aboard the bright red truck. So now we have Amy as another character. Elliot groaned. "We can't all be firefighters," he sighed. "One of us has to be rescued." Amy smiled sheepishly. Everyone agreed to rescue the next friend they met, no matter what. With 4 firefighters on board, they had to hold on tight. They were about to push off when Snowy and Puff scampered up and asked to be firefighters too. "We have enough firefighters," Socks told the cubs. "Besides, you're too little," said Amy gently. "Wouldn't you like to be rescued?" asked Elliot. "We could get you out of a tree or pull you from a fire." The cubs hung their heads. "We want to ride on the truck," said Snowy. "Yeah," grumbled Puff. Now we're adding 2 more characters. Can you find who they are? You're right. They're Snowy and Puff. Elliot promised to give Snowy and Puff a ride on the truck if they agreed to be rescued first. He felt a little sorry as they trudged off to their den, but then he heard them call, "Help! Fire! Save us!" Elliot cranked up the siren. At last they had a rescue. What was the conflict in this story? You're right, they had too many people on the fire truck. But what was the solution to the conflict? What did the characters do to make the problem go away? So you're right, Snowy and Puff decided to be rescued. They solved the problem. With 4 firefighters pushing the truck, it hurled down the hall. "Hurry!" cried Socks. The cubs sounded far away. They circled the landing twice and zoomed off. "Woohoo!" yelled Elliot. The truck careened wildly. "We're going too fast!" shouted Paisley. And before Elliot could slow down, they crashed into the banister and flew right between the rails. Elliot gripped the last rung of the ladder. Socks clutched the fire hose. Paisley and Amy grabbed onto the Socks. They dangled in the air. "Help!" cried Socks. "Help!" cried Paisley. "Someone save us!" squeaked Amy. Elliot hung on tight. Uh-oh, I see another conflict. Do you see the conflict? Elliot looked down. It was a long way to the floor. Who would come to their rescue? "We'll save you!" cried the cubs. Elliot swallowed. How could two little cubs help four big firefighters? Snowy and Puff gathered pillows from all over the house and piled them on the floor, beneath their friends. "Hurry!" begged Elliot. The heap of pillows grew bigger. "I'm slipping!" cried Socks. The cubs stretched a blanket over the pillows and held on. "Let's go!" they yelled up to Elliot. Elliot didn't feel courageous anymore. He was afraid to let go, but his paws began to slip, and wah, plop! He landed in the middle of the blanket. One by one, Paisley, Amy, and Socks dropped safely onto the blanket too. Everyone gathered around the cubs. "Thank you," said Elliot. Snowy and Puff stood up right. "See, we weren't too little," said Snowy. "Yeah, see?" said Puff. Elliot plunked on his helmet on Snowy's head and gave his jacket to Puff. "Hooray for Fire Chief Snowy and Commander Puff," he said with a grin. Then everyone raced back upstairs to the fire truck. And this time, Elliot was the first to call for help. So, the second conflict in this story was when the four firefighters fell off the ledge and were hanging on. But what was the solution? How did that get solved? Snowy and Puff made a blanket that they could fall onto to safety. Good job reading.